I come from a completely different field. I don't come from academia, but I come from the practical world. I'm a communicator, and I've been working with communicating in sports for 40 years using sponsorship. And I'll immediately try to explain how that makes it relevant to the discussions that we are having at the moment. Basically, me and my colleagues were selling sponsorship in the 1970s and 1980s. And we were competing with the advertising, and we were discovering how incredibly efficient sponsorship could be in order to transmit new brands and even lifestyles and behaviors to the larger public. But I think that certainly myself, I did not understand why, and I mean that my colleagues didn't understand it either. And it is only after I stopped actually selling sponsorship myself that I got really interested in thinking, could these same methods, whatever works so well in sponsorship, could that be used in order to communicate more efficiently, in order to provoke social change? So use it for much more elevated purposes. And after studying this subject for 3 years and trying to connect the practical knowledge that I have acquired in the field and academic research that I have been able to collate from different fields, and obviously neuroscience is one, and all these discussions that we've had today are to the work that I'm trying to accomplish. I'm currently in the middle of writing a white book on this subject, which I call Instinctively Sustainable, and it has its own web site. And there you can notice the connections with the subject matter of today. Basically, sponsorship uses the power of analogy, metaphors, and heuristics in order to communicate more efficiently with the larger public. And why is that? That is precisely because of everything that has been explained today, which is that we completely, for a long time, we've completely misunderstood exactly how the mind works, and a lot of progress has been made in the last 20 years. And now, if you actually collate the research that has been made, you can start understanding why that kind of communication is much more efficient than the communication that we were using in the 1950s and 1960s, and even 1970s, really. That is what I'm trying to explain in my white book. And I will hold a presentation in Dubrovnik on this very subject. I have, of course, bought the professor's books as well. I have not got to read them yet because I'm deeply ensconced in one book that I found fascinating. And it was funny that Bill should mention today the quote by Scott Fitzgerald, that to test a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposing ideas in mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. The book I'm reading is called Inside Jokes, Using Humor to Reverse Engineer the Mind by Matthew Hurley, Daniel Dennett, and Reginald Adams. And it is just remarkable how that book explains exactly what we were talking about today, in the sense that humor is a mechanism in order to elucidate contradiction and ambiguities, dissonance, incongruities. That is the human way to try and solve those. You're actually coming from the other side of this. I'm talking about the result, you're talking about the origin of how those thoughts come. But it is very funny, and I think that a lot of you would be very interested in this particular book. I'm only midway through it. And what the authors are trying to do is to find the survival value from an evolutionary point of view, the survival value of humor. And it's absolutely fascinating. Now, I haven't come to the end of it yet, so I can't tell you what that connection is, but I hope to cover that in the Broadnet. So it absolutely addresses the issue that genius and deep thinking obviously are deeply connected with cognitive dissonance. For instance, the authors point to the fact that an indispensable element of humor is contradiction, ambiguity, dissonance, incongruity resolution, and effectively holding two contradicting ideas in mind. So is maybe humor, when we come back to the evolutionary utility of humor, is it perhaps mankind's way of practicing one's creativity and inventiveness? Is it maybe the one of the mechanisms for the survival or the creation of geniuses? I think that is a fascinating question, and I'll tell you more about it when I finish the book. I'm also because we're talking about trying to create social change, and I'm trying to use the techniques that I learned in sports sponsoring in order to do something of a higher value. I'm fascinated by the phenomenon in the United States, the phenomenon of fake news, where we have many people like Jay Leno, Letterman, Colbert, Bill Maher, using humor in order to present the news in a completely incongruous way, effectively, and their success is phenomenal. And I don't have any academic, how should we say, evidence of this, but I suspect that their effect on the opinion, on public opinion in the United States is very, very profound, and probably Bill knows more about that. That is precisely where humor comes in. Humor allows you, of course, to catch people's attention and retain it, because it is entertainment. But then if you use that in order to promote much more important ideas, such as now, obviously, all the discussions about the elections in the United States, then that is a mechanism that one needs to understand better. And I think that is precisely what all you gentlemen are working with. And somebody like me in the practical world of communication is trying to understand in order to use it in a better way and for a higher purpose. Thank you very much.